Peace and love, everyone, and welcome back for another Sunday Hope and Healing session where we utilize Transcending the Matrix, a system of holistic healing to support us all in our well being, to help us be the fullest, freest versions of ourselves, to shine as brightly as we possibly can, to live the utter and complete fulfillment of who it is that we were divinely designed to be. And so we broadcast at 1 o'clock on 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sundays, hence the name Sunday Hope and Healing Session. And so our focus for today is dealing with grief and the pain of loss. Grief and the pain of loss. And this was kind of inspired because over the last 2 weeks, uh, four people I know four people who over the last 2 weeks had their mother make their transition. Um, and three of those four people are particularly near and dear to my heart. Um, and so, uh, while that's the specific case that's happened with several people, I know that there are other people who uh, are dealing with and have dealt with grief and the pain of loss. Maybe it's been in of um, the form of the transition from this sphere of life or this realm of existence in the earth realm to perhaps leaving the body behind and entering into the realm of the ancestors. Perhaps it is the loss of a relationship, the loss of a business, the loss of a job, the loss of hope, you know, uh, the loss of things happening the way that you wanted them to, and kind of having to let go of that and dealing with the pain of that. Maybe the loss of some sense of security, whether financial or otherwise. And so we're dealing with this theme of grief and the pain of loss. And the reality is that nobody likes to feel it. Nobody likes to feel it, yet it's something that comes and visits all of us. You know, there was a time when I was living in Houston and I was talking with this guy, um, and he asked me, "Do you know what the mortality rate in Houston is?" And and I said, 100%. Yes, all of us are going to have a loved one who's going to leave the planet at some point. And we ourselves are all going to leave the planet at some point. And again, whether your grief or the pain of loss is specifically related to the thing that we call death, or whether it's something else that you're grieving the loss of or experiencing the pain of losing that, we're here to offer support and healing where that's concerned. Okay. Do want to say, however, that it is a process. I do also want to say, um, that it's not an easy thing. I want to acknowledge that it's not an easy thing, even for those who have a spiritual awareness and know that the laying down of the body is not the end. It still can be difficult to deal with that transition. I think back to, this was some years ago, a person who uh, is also a Transcending the Matrix initiate. This lady did not have a warm, affectionate, um, demonstrative type of mother. In fact, there was a lot of discord in their relationship. It was not a harmonious relationship, but she was totally torn down and broken down when her mother did make that transition. Um, Sometimes there are feelings that come up that might even be unexpected. Sometimes one might feel tempted to kind of stuff feelings down, to not feel them, and to maybe kind of intellectualize it. Um, But we're going to deal with the um, actual healing, and creating space within your heart, within the spectrum of your emotional state, within your nervous system, within your beingness, within your aura, within your existence, to be able to effectively navigate the grief process, and to effectively uh, deal with the experience of loss, in whatever, again, in whatever form that might show up for you. So I'm going to start with a prayer, and I just would invite you to tune into this. Also, if you know somebody who's dealing with loss, or who's in the process of grieving, uh, and by the way, there's no expiration date on grieving. People may grieve for long periods of time, uh, particularly based on what the relationship is. And so, with that said, if you know of anybody who you feel could be blessed by this week Sunday Hope and Healing session, I'd like to encourage you to share it with them. If you're on YouTube, it gives you an easy function for being able to share. You can click the share, and you can send it as a text message. Or if you're on Facebook, watching from Facebook, you can share there as well. I just ask that you say why it is that you want the person to watch it, because otherwise they're not going to click on it in the first place. But let them know that you feel like you'll be a blessing to them. So we're going to go ahead, and we're going to um, I'm going to start with a prayer, and then we'll actually get into the healing. So, most high, most profound, eternal and loving God, you who is the source of our existence and the source of all beingness. In this moment of sobriety, we give great thanks that you are a healer, a deliverer, a redeemer, a sustainer, and that there is nothing in need of healing that extends beyond your reach and your ability to heal, to transform, and to transmute, and to totally turn the situation around. And with a sense of deep gratitude and humility and appreciation, I come forth as a vessel of that healing, to demonstrate you as a healer on the behalf of all of those who are tuned in, all of those who are catching this broadcast on a replay, and all of those carried in the heart of anyone who is watching or listening and desire support for their loved one, or someone that they care about who's in the process of grieving or dealing with the pain of a loss. And thank you, God, for neutralizing the root cause of that pain of loss, as well as all cumulative effects from the entire energetic structures and every strand of DNA and every cell of every person uh, aforementioned, and transmuting that energy into and replacing it with acceptance, the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, appreciation for life and the gift of what has happened and what was, and open mindedness and open heartedness for what blessings are yet to come. And I bear witness to the wholeness of each person aforementioned. on this date and in this time and space called now. Thank you. Thank you, God, for this gift of your divine love. It is done. It is done. It is done. Ashe and amen. Okay, beloveds. So let's get a little more into the actual healing right now. And again, I know that there are people who are tuned in who might be coming from one place or dealing with loss or grief in one area, and there may be others who are dealing with it in another area. I'll touch maybe on some of those specific areas, and then there'll also be some things that will be included that kind of would address anybody and everybody. Greetings to you, Ketrin. Good to have you here today. All right, and so let's first start off with the sense of feeling alone. And so we want to um, neutralize the root cause of that feeling of aloneness, okay, and transmute that into um, the awareness that you're never alone, the awareness that there is a great cloud of witnesses that is here to offer support. The I want to deal with the uh, something that came up in a devotion I was doing yesterday was a thing about how debilitating self-pity could be. And please understand, I'm not coming from a dispassionate place. I'm coming very much from a compassionate place in this. Um, let's address any sense um, of self-pity and transmute that into self-acceptance and self-love. And in self-acceptance, I'm talking about accepting wherever it is that you are on your journey, wherever it is that you might be in your grief process. Okay. I'm not trying to take that away from you. I'm not trying to um, minimize that in any way. Okay. And speaking of minimizing, let's deal with um, experiences that you might have with people minimizing your pain or minimizing your experience. So let's neutralize that from the point of the root cause as well as all cumulative effects and transmute that into uh, feeling acknowledged, uh, feeling seen, feeling heard, and feeling got, like somebody gets you, actually gets you. Okay. All right. Now, whether that comes in the form of where you might like it to come from or not, mm, it may or may not. It may come from some other source or some other vessel, I should say. The source is always going to be the same. If it's love and support, it's always going to be divinely sent. Okay. Now let's deal with the belief system. With the belief system of not deserving love. This is some very real stuff that comes up for people in a deep from a deep subconscious place when loss is experienced. Okay, so let's deal with this completely neutralizing belief system of not being worthy of love. There's a lot there with that, man. Hmm. Want to purify that through the power of God's pure love and transmute that into accepting the possibility that you're worthy of love. and accepting that you actually are worthy of love and that you are actually loved in a way that can really work for you. Okay. And so let's clear some of these blockages to the awareness of love's presence. All right, what might some of those blockages be? Some of those blockages could be negative life experiences. Okay, negative life experiences. They could be things that were passed down in terms of ancestral trauma. Okay, it could be things that have been experienced in terms of actual experiences of abandonment in the past, and maybe somebody not being physically present, or maybe even in somebody being physically present, but your needs still going, your needs and perhaps some other areas still going unmet. Okay. Maybe the selfishness of another person, maybe even a caregiver, a person who is responsible for your care, um, not really taking your needs into consideration. So we want to neutralize that, transmute that um, into a new experience for the future. And even a retelling, finding healthy ways of retelling your story when you're telling the story of your past. So that it's not coming from, it's not imprisoned in that state of pain, but you're able to actually share your story from an actually empowered position. And so let's look at creating a new level of forgiveness. Mm. So I invite you to just welcome forgiveness into your heart and into your mind. And in terms of forgiveness, a friend of mine, Spencer Murray, spoke earlier today. I always remember something that he said in terms of a definition of unforgiveness, which is, or a definition of forgiveness, really, which is releasing the hope that the past could have been different. Okay. Sometimes when a loved one leaves the planet, we wish that things could have been different. We wish in some situations that they would have done things differently. And then we sometimes also deal with survivor's guilt and think, wish that we could have done differently. Think that what could I have, what more could I have done? Okay. And so we're going to neutralize that and channel that into some constructive directions and open up uh, energetically for the creation of and the perception of being able to identify ways in which you can channel that energy in healthy ways. All right. It might be some form of service work that you might do in honor of someone's memory, or some gift that you might do, a scholarship that you might set up in honor of someone's um, memory. It might be any number of different things. So, might be you showing up for someone in a way that someone you're grieving showed up for you, or it could be in connection with something that they were passionate about. Maybe you weren't that passionate about it, but maybe it was something they were passionate about it, about maybe supporting something that they were passionate about. Okay. Know a few people who have buried children, their children or a child. Um, it may be showing up for somebody else who could use some parental guidance and or mentorship or something of that nature. Okay. In terms of a loss of a parent, it may show up in the form of supporting an elder, intentionally supporting an elder. Okay. All right. Let's deal with let's deal with the whole concept of loss. I'm thankful that as of today, as of the recording of this message, all of my siblings and and my parents are still sucking wind. They're still on the planet. Um, I'm not a stranger, however, to loss. Um, and so, and I won't get into some of those details right now. Um, but please understand that the place that I'm coming from is a place of genuine compassion and genuinely knowing what the pain of a loss feels like. All right. If you've tuned in to some of the previous broadcasts, you'll hear about some of my own experiences with loss and navigating those things. So let's deal with this idea of the belief system that it's actually possible to lose someone. Mm. And again, I am in no way trying to minimize anybody's life experience. Please understand that. All right, so let's elevate that belief system, and losing someone is actually being something that's possible with being able to align with a different perspective, a newer perspective, a perspective that's more supportive of you and your journey. A thing that frequently happens for people. I've been in ministry for a long time and ministered to a lot of people who had a loved one make their transition. And a thing that I've seen happen really consistently with a lot of people is whoever it is that's left behind being really concerned about and worried about the well being of who it is that made their transition. And a thing that I uh, really been convinced of on so many occasions is that this loved one that made their transition is fine, that their greatest concern is for you and how it is that you are. Because what they want for you is for you to be able to experience fulfillment in your life, that they made their transition and they're no longer in the earth realm, but they want you to still experience fulfillment in the earth realm. They want you to still experience peace in the earth realm. And they want you to understand that they're okay. They're actually in much better shape than you are. And the thing that's, if you could put it this way, that's often most challenging for those who have left their body temple is how their loved ones left behind are doing. Now, this isn't said for you to feel guilty about the pain that you may be experiencing as it relates to a loved one making their transition. It's not to say that at all. It's just for you to have an understanding that they want what's best for you. And it doesn't make you love them less for you to feel like it's okay for you to move forward in your life. Okay. And that's whether it's a loss of a spouse, the loss of a parent, the loss of a sibling, the loss of a child, the loss of a friend. They want what's best for you. Even if they had some selfish ways in the body. And if they were human, they did have some selfish ways in the body while they were in the body. when they leave the body behind, their perspective changes. It opens up. They're on the other side of the veil, and they're not seen with all the limitations that we see through the lenses of the matrix. And they genuinely want the best for you, and they want you to be happy, and they want you to feel fulfilled, and they want you to be able to move forward with your life. So let's deal right now with openness to the love and support of the loved one who's now on the other side. I have an aunt who shared with me that she's had experiences and dreams and in visions during meditation of um, communing, and it's always in the same spot with my grandfather. And um, and shortly after he passed, he told her, "I can do more for you from I can do more for you here than I could there. I can do more for you in the spirit realm than I could in the earth realm." And so want to create openness to being able to continue to embrace and nurture a relationship with that loved one while moving forward with your own life. So I want to really boost that up. And to delete any guilt with respect to that and replace it with feelings of love for them and love for you. Okay. All right. Want to deal with right now temptations to self-medicate as a way of navigating the pain of loss. There are a lot of ways that people self-medicate. People self-medicate. I said, I think last week or sometime over the last couple of weeks, that so much of what we as humans do, just about every decision we make is a decision that we're making out of a search for salvation, a decision that we're making to try to keep ourselves from having to go through some hell, okay, in some way or another, right? To be able to find some little taste of heaven in some way, all right? And so sometimes we self medicate in terms of our proclivities, the things that we feel drawn to try to distract ourselves from the pain. Maybe shopping, it may be pornography, it may be alcohol or drugs, it may be, just getting caught up in other people's drama. It can be a whole lot of different things. Um, so let's address that. Maybe predis maybe that predisposition to self-medicating as a way of trying to escape the pain. Hmm. Let's just deal actually, not just with the self-medicating. Let's look at just period. Um, the fear of pain and the perceived need to escape pain. So there are three significant defense mechanisms that people have, or that life forms on Earth have: fight, flight, or freeze. So either fight, either run, or freeze. I see these little geckos and these little small lizards, and when they sense that there is perhaps some danger present, what they'll do is freeze and hope that they're not seen. And if something moves towards them in a sense that it may try to attack them, they'll run and try to get away because they don't have an ability to fight very well. And so sometimes when we're faced with something that we perceive as threatening, sometimes we might try to, including pain, we might try to run from that pain. We might run to something to get away from the pain, or we might try to fight the pain by stuffing it down and by entering into a state of denial. So let's deal with the denial of pain. And when I say denial, I'm talking about negative denial, like denying that the pain is there. Okay. Now, there's another kind of denial referred to as positive denial or constructive denial, which is which will acknowledge the pain or will acknowledge the situation is what it is, but deny it to continue to rule your life. Okay. To acknowledge, yes, I'm feeling this pain. It sucks. I don't like it at all. But I know that but I am not going to let this be the end of me while I'm experiencing this right now. I know that this too shall pass, even though it might not seem like it. I know that for every dark night of the soul, for the soul who is willing, there is a bright, redemptive sunrise. There's a For every crucifixion, there's a resurrection, right? Weeping might endure for the night, the scriptures say, but joy comes in the morning. And no matter how dark the night gets, the earth still keeps spinning on its axis, and sunrise will come. And even on the cloudiest days with the most violent storms, behind the clouds is the sun still shining. When the earth is spinning on its axis and it's nighttime for you, the earth is still having light shined upon it from the sun. You just aren't, you're just in the shadow of it in that moment. But if you just stick around for a little bit, you'll find that the sun is again shining on you because the sun never stops shining. Okay. And so let's create an openness to experiencing the light finding you in whatever areas that there might be some darkness, and in whatever areas there might be pain, in whatever areas there might be guilt, in whatever areas there might be shame, in whatever areas there might be of not knowing how you're going to go on, welcoming the light of God's love into that space. Every sickness, every disease, every pain is the function of, I'm going to say, a darkness. And I'm not saying that darkness is some evil thing in this context. I'm saying darkness is simply the lack of light, simply the lack of light. And when we welcome the light of God's love into a space, the darkness automatically disappears. And so we welcome in the light of God's love into the spaces within our heart and in our mind. I put my hand to my head. The brain is in the head, but the mind actually exists within every cell of the body. And there are different experiences and thoughts and emotions that we store in the cells in different parts of our body. And so we welcome in the light of God's love and transforming power into the cells of the body, wherever we might be holding that trauma, or wherever we might be holding that pain, or wherever we might be holding those negative emotions or that fear. We're going to transform all that into receptivity to the light of God's love. openness to the light of God's love. We're going to delete the fear that we will lose God's love. Mm, that's coming up, a fear of loss of God's love. Mm. We want to delete the root cause of all thought processes and mindsets that think that we could ever lose God's love based on things that we were taught or things that we were told or beliefs that we've had. It is a reality of our life experience that sometimes the amount of love that we experience from people or that we receive from people is proportionate to our performance in their lives. That's a reality of our experience. However, God's love for us is not performance based. God doesn't love us based on how much or how well we perform. God loves us based on God's holy and divine nature is to love. Okay, so let's open up space to receive that uh, love that truly is without conditions. Mm. See, here's the thing, God's love is without conditions. But because we have all of this stuff going on in our processing and our perspective as it relates to the conditions that are necessary for love, when we operate in a certain way, we then punish ourselves by not letting God's love in. It's not something God withholds, it's something that we withhold from ourselves to punish ourselves. And yet, I don't know what other scriptures do, but I know that in the Bible it says if you're thinking about this from the perspective of punishment, then you really don't understand perfect love. Okay, that's in the New Testament. I think in one of the epistles of John, towards the, I don't remember if it's first, second, or third, John. All right, so let's look at oh, part of something that's coming up as part of our fear of letting go. Greetings, Jennifer Bliss. We're sending a whole bunch of love out to you, my sister, and honor to your mom, Alfredine Wiley, as she's entered into the realm of the ancestors. I'm sure her love and support is here with us today. All right, so hmm, I'll look at the base of the spine. In the base of the spine in the coccyx was the first cell that we ever were when we were first conceived. And at the base of our spine, we carry a lot of foundational issues, right? In terms of our early beginnings, we carry a lot of that stuff down at the base of our spine, including uh, some very basic programming in terms of how the rest of how we function in terms of the rest of our lives. And those things aren't our fault, but they are for us to take responsibility for in terms of moving forward. So let's look at um, acceptance of false teachings held within and stored in the base of our spine, and also coping mechanisms that we learned, you know, in the very early stages of our life that seemed to be successful back then at that time. Alrighty, and let's evolve that into um, transmute that into more evolved ways of perceiving and doing things going forward. And so bringing in to the base of the spine an infusion of pure love and divine light, traveling up the spine to the pineal gland in the center of the brain. Need to deal with the amygdala before we do that. So let's address um, the amygdala is part of the reptilian brain. And I'm not speaking of this in some sense of alien reptilians. That's not the context I'm speaking about. I could break that down, but that's not what today's focus is. Um, Within every human, we have three brains. Within our brain in our head, we have a reptilian brain, a mammalian brain, and a human brain. The gray matter is referred to as the cerebral cortex is a part that we have um, that other mammalian forms don't necessarily have. Okay, and reptiles don't have parts of the brain that we share with other mammals. But the parts of the brain that exist within reptiles that deal with survival exist within our brains as well. We also have aspects in our brains that deal um, with bonding and the processing of emotions in a different way, as well as higher reasoning capacities. But let's deal right now with the with overactive amygdala. Okay, and the releasing of excessive adrenaline and cortisol, those stress hormones, and optimize the serotonin. All right, let's deal with, and what happens is then we get locked into that survival mode, and then we end up using our imagination, which ends up resulting in our manifestation uh, based on the fear that we've had. Okay. And so let's um, elevate the imagination to uh, brighter days. Okay. And I say that in saying brighter days. Um, what I'm talking about is I'm not simply talking about changes in circumstances. What I'm talking about your days going forward, being consciously aware of the presence of love and the presence of God's light and the presence of God's presence and the openness of those who are there to offer support and do life with you. Okay. And to be able to receive that, not from a standpoint of expectation, but to be able to receive it um, from a standpoint of recognition that it's actually there. Sometimes we don't like to ask people for things because we feel that they're saying no, or worse yet, that they'll say yes with their mouth, but still say no with their actions. And that can be difficult to deal with. Okay, so um, let's transmute that into uh, welcoming into our atmosphere, welcoming into our vibration people who really do have our best interest at heart and have the tools to support us in the way that we're actually needing it. support, and are therefore willing and able to provide that support, and for us to be able to have that openness to receive it. Okay. All right. Want to actually ask you to focus on your liver for a moment. And within the liver, want to process or want to transmute unprocessed anger. Anger, by the way, is a part of the grief process as well. All right. We're going to transmute that anger and channel it in healthy, constructive ways and transmute it into, again, acceptance. You know what distress is? Resisting what's so, resisting what it is that you can't change, and getting into a tizzy about what one is unable to change. Acceptance is allowing what is to be, uh, allowing yourself to be aware and at peace with the fact that what is what is. Um, and that doesn't have to take away from your well being. All right. So let's deal with let's deal with limitations and programming in our mindset and in our processing of information that's dealing and caught up in a sense of limitation. One of the reasons it's hard for us to deal with loss is because we don't think that what we've lost will be replaced. And people cannot be replaced. I'm not trying to minimize that in any way. But what it is that we love about the people in our lives is the way that God showed up in and through them. So the magic wasn't ever limited to any specific person. The magic wasn't ever limited to any specific job or any specific opportunity. The magic is always coming from God. And that for a season, the person, the relationship, the situation, that was the vessel for a season. I want to increase our awareness and our receptivity and our perception to be able to identify the different places and ways in which God might choose to show up. Okay. It's not going to be in the same packaging as before, but it could still be something very, very fulfilling. Okay. All right. So, with respect to this, let's open up our spiritual vision. Open up our spiritual vision to be able to see the hand of God at work. I was speaking with one of the Transcending the Matrix initiates earlier today, helping them, navigate something. And um, one of the things that we dealt with is awareness of all the possibilities that are actually available that they weren't necessarily seeing in the moment. They were seeing that this unexpected thing happened that was unexpected in an unpleasant way, but also to open up for awareness of that's actually a two-way street, that unexpected things happening in a positive way too. All right. So let's align our frequency with unexpected good, with unexpected good. In a world where we experience duality, we experience hot and cold, the only way to really truly value and appreciate one thing is by experiencing its opposite in a lot of ways. We experience our experience of pain helps us to be able to experience joy in a whole different way. Our experience of heartache opens us up to, if we're open to it, allows us to be able to experience love in a whole different way. I was born the first day of fall, but my favorite season has always been spring. Growing up in Michigan, it was always a long, cold winter. And it was because of what I experienced in the winter that I came to really, truly appreciate the beauty of the new life that comes forth in the spring. I live in Florida now, and although there are trees that don't have leaves on them right now, the spring isn't the same experience as it was in Michigan for me. It's still my favorite season, but I don't have that contrast in the same way. And so let's open up to uh, the ability to be able to embrace, to be able to fully embrace um, the polar opposite of whatever the pain is. Mm. And even beyond that, in terms of the joy or the fulfillment or the peace or the gratitude. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to ask you all to do something. This isn't really transcending the matrix work, but I do want to ask you to do something. I want to ask you that whenever you're feeling these moments of the pain of loss or the grief, allow yourself to be present to whatever feeling is actually there. Don't don't fight the pain. Don't run from the pain. And don't freeze in the midst of the pain. There's another approach to danger too. And that approach is a transformation in your perspective, right? And so what I encourage you to do the next time you're feeling some pain or some heartache or some negative emotion, and this is whether it's tied to grief or the pain from loss or anything else, allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to get present to where it's showing up in your body. Allow yourself to let the fullness of the feeling be present in your experience. And then in the midst of feeling that negative emotion, whatever it is, invite love into the presence where that pain or that feeling of loss or whatever that unpleasant thing is. Invite love into the space where that uncomfortable emotion is dwelling. In your space, in your thinking, in your space in terms of actually your physical body as well. Right? There's no spot that God is not. God is everywhere equally present. Every bit of pain that we experience is because we forgot that the presence of love is there. We missed that the light of God is there in that moment, in that situation. And so when we welcome that light and we welcome that love in, it transforms things, it heals things. It's the magic of the work that is transcending the matrix. I've seen a lot of wonderful things happen with this work over the last couple of decades. And the healing balm is bringing in the purifying power of God's unconditional love which also brings with it light, if you will. The light is representing awareness, really. Basically, that's what the light is. The light is what allows you to see. The light is what allows you to behold what's actually there. Okay. And a lot of times we experience because we're only seeing a portion. There's something that's there that we're not seeing. Speaking of which, I don't know if you all are seeing, but it looks like there is an angel in my forehead. I'm seeing this. I can't not see it. I see like an angel with a halo, hands extended, and wings sticking out, like between my eyebrows and in my forehead. um, at any rate, I thank you all for being here today, for extending this gift to yourself. You know, hopefully to some degree this has helped somewhat. Um, I do honor the fact that your experience of loss and your experience of grief is a process. I don't want to in any way diminish or minimize that. I do, however, in a spirit of love and compassion, want to offer support, and this is a way that I can do that. Okay. All right. So just as we opened, we're going to close with a prayer. God, you who knows everything that we experience, and you who in every moment sees more than what it is that we're seeing. And while it is that we might feel angry and hurt and all of these things, sometimes even towards you for allowing the things that we didn't want to happen, we know that you're seeing more than what it is that we're seeing. Open the eyes of our hearts, open our spiritual vision so that we can see beyond the limits of what it is that we're going through, and help us to be able to see it from a place that actually helps give us the strength to move forward in an empowered way, in a way that is loving towards ourselves and loving towards whomever we've had to say goodbye to on a soul deep level. Thank you for the healing that's taken place today. Thank you for everybody who's been touched and blessed by it. I particularly give thanks for your presence in the life of Jennifer, of Eugene, of DeAndre, and of Maxine, whose mothers made their transition over the last 2 weeks. Also hold in my heart Zali and all of those who have experienced loss. If there's a name that I didn't speak right now, it's not of lack of importance of anybody who might be tuned in or might be listening to this. Those are just people who are on my heart right now specifically. But God, thank you for the healing. Thank you for the blessing. Thank you for the privilege of being able to participate this and to be able to utilize this platform as a way of offering service and sharing love and compassion and healing. Thank you for these and all of the other wonderful blessings. And Hashem Yeshua HaMashiach Hashe and Amen. Alrighty, beloved. Well, that wraps us up for today's Sunday Hope and Healing session. I'm sending a lot of love in your direction, praying that it reaches you wherever you are and wherever it is that you're needing it, praying that you know that you're not alone. And if nobody else is, know that Royce Fletcher Thomason wants to be here for you in whatever way I can. Okay. And I'm sure that there are other people who want to as well. All right. God bless you. I love you. And as always, send you forth with peace and love. Take care.